What is up, and welcome everybody to episode 1 of the Kyoto Animation Binge Watch. I am your boy, Evan S., and joining here with me is the homie, Chad St. John. How are you doing today, sir? You know what?
I'm doing all right today.
You know what I found very funny, Chad, before we get started?
What?
And I apologize if I don't know. I don't think I've ever talked to you before we did this, right?
No, that is true.
Yeah, so I was like, I want someone to do Kyoto Animation with me because I've been wanting to watch more anime, and I was like, going by studios is the way it's easier for me to make it organized, right?
Right.
I was like, well, let's do Kyoto because they're critically acclaimed, and they don't have a lot of anime in hindsight to actually work
because they put out what, like one or two a year, roughly.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 a year. We'll get into that later. Well, first, the reason is that they don't outsource any of their stuff. Like, everything they do is in-house. So that's why
that makes sense.
Yeah, they only do like one. They're not like A1 Pictures does like one every season, but I bet they have like hundreds of other satellite studios like that help them work out on it. But anyway,
that would make sense.
I was like, I want to do this, and you were like, I want to do that too, and I was like, well, might as well make it a podcast because podcasts are fun. So
when I looked at the list for Kyoto Animation, it had a lot that I've had on my list for a while, so it gave me like a really good reason to watch, because I knew we would have a discussion of some sort to do.
Yeah, and it's always really fun to talk in depth about the anime. So first thing I want to go before we get super started here is I want to say we're only doing anime that is we're only doing anime that I can find streaming on Funimation, Crunchyroll, and Hulu. And I added Netflix on that list too, but they don't have anything on Netflix. There's like 3 we won't talk about in the series. It's going to be Air, which isn't doing anywhere, and Nichijou, which is really disappointing because I really want to watch Nichijou, but Funimation released a Blu-ray, but it's not streaming on their site, which is weird, but hopefully maybe in Anime Expo they'll announce something. And there's a third one, Tomoko Market is also one that's you can't find anywhere besides buying the Blu-ray, which I thought about buying those 3, but this isn't the only studio binge I want to do. Once I get to like Studio Bones or like Sunrise or A1 Pictures, that's going to be impossible trying to get all those Blu-rays down. So I figured set a rule for myself, only streaming that is safe.
Yeah,
and also
it's significantly cheaper.
Mm-hmm. And so we're doing this, I don't know how many parts it's going to be. We're going to do 3 an episode, ideally. We're probably going to have to do 4 or 2 on the last one or something. And today we're going to talk about Fullmetal Panic, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and Kanon. So I guess to start us off, it will be amiss to not talk about the original Fullmetal Panic, which, for those who don't know, Kyoto Animation did the second 2 seasons for Mofu and the second raid. They did not work on the first one. And I was super bummed when I heard about that because I'm like, well, I want to do this binge, but I have to watch a 24-episode show by some other studio first. And I'll just let you lead.
Gonzo.
Yeah, by Studio Gonzo. I'll let you lead. What is your opinion on the original season 1 of Fullmetal Panic?
I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I mean, it's definitely not as good as the second 2 seasons, for sure. It still had some pretty good comedy parts in it, I would think. I mean, I personally felt like that. But I mean, yeah, it wasn't as good as the other 2 for sure.
I felt it was kind of boring. Like, honestly. Maybe that's just kind of like the placebo effect, I think is what they call it. Because, myself wanted to get through these 24 episodes to get to the next one. So maybe that was kind of hindering my overall opinion. But I thought, I like the characters, and I don't know. Did you watch dub or sub?
I watched dub because I watched it on Funimation.
Yeah,
well,
I watched.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
I watched the dub.
Yeah, I watched the dub too, and I thought, this has nothing to do with the studio, of course, just the people who license it. But thought the 2 leads of what's the name, Sosuke and Konami.
Chidori, yeah.
Yeah, the very, very good voice work in the dub there. So I really like the dub, but I don't want to go too much on this because it's not Kyoto, but I thought it was kind of boring. I thought the direction was like really bad. Like I understand that like most anime, if you pay attention, like there's not a lot of movement in dialogue scenes, but there's some scenes when it's just like a slideshow with like people talking on the back of it. And I was like,
Right.
And it's just like the more enjoyable elements I thought was like the slice of life stuff, but that's
Yes, I would agree.
That's not even in the first half, and like the military stuff, I don't think was cool enough to really be all that interesting. And the villain was like, I mean, I put in my notes, he's cartoony, but like in the bad way. That when we talk about the second wave, we're going to what cartoony in a good way is. But in the first one, he's just this. I don't know. I don't even know what he was doing, to be honest.
Right.
He wasn't a good villain. And also,
I agree.
I was like, I probably shouldn't say this, but when I was watching it, I was like, man, this show looks like Bible Black. This looks like some old 2000s hentai. Is what I got.
Oh man.
So yeah, first Full Metal Panic, not that great in my opinion. Some enjoyable moments.
I would agree with that.
Anything you want to add before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I pretty much only enjoyed the funny parts of it. I also didn't enjoy the mechs near as much, and none of the fight scenes were too great in my opinion. Actually, they looked pretty gross to me when I was watching.
Yeah, and there's definitely interesting ideas, which I just don't think it was like that very well done right. But so now we get out of that way. But I will appreciate. I'll say I do appreciate the fact that I watched it, right? Because not only do you get the storyline for the other two seasons, but also it kind of shows kind of how bad the Gonzo adaptation is. Basically highlights
in comparison.
The Kyoto Animation is, because I first watched it and I finished watching it. I was like, okay, it took me like 3 days to watch the first one. So the very first Kyoto Animation single work that they did is Full Metal Panic for Mofu. And let me tell you, very different show, obviously. The first season's like this weird military-esque show about, submarine warfare and terrorism and all that. For Mofu, it's just like a slice of life comedy.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised with the difference between them.
Like, there's no mechs, hardly any submarines. It's just, Sosuke and Chidori just, in high school. And it's so funny. So what's your opinion on that?
I definitely liked it more than the first season. I thought the whole series as a show, like the whole show, was really, really funny. Definitely funnier than the first one, which is pretty good.
Oh, for sure. I love like the bits in it, and I love. Like, it's interesting because those characters in Fumofu who just show up in Fumofu, they're not in the other two seasons. You have and we're not going to be doing spoilers, by the way, so don't worry. But it's kind of we're talking about a comedy show because it's kind of like the jokes and it's funny. Yeah, what else? But what I really liked is the character dynamic of Sosuke and Chidori a lot more than the first season, because it just you see like the dynamic of like. Yes, there is points of her like hitting him with the fan, doing that gag, and like Sosuke and Sosuke, this military guy. Oh, we probably should explain what Full Metal Panic is first. So just real quick, because Full Metal Panic is this one chick. Her name's Chidori. She's like the chosen one or something. I don't know. And then all these terrorist organizations want her to, basically take over the world because she has a special power that allows her to basically understand something. They don't really say what it is ever. And
Black technology, I believe.
Yeah, this guy's name is Sosuke. He's part of this mercenary group. What's the mercenary group called again? Madrid, right?
I don't even remember.
He's part of this mercenary group, and he's assigned to go up.
Oh, Mithril. It's Mithril.
He's assigned to go basically be her bodyguard, but he never he's been basically born and raised in the military. That's all they know. So him trying to accumulate to high school life is where the comedy comes from, because he's a super stout military guy in a place
he doesn't understand.
Yeah, he was a high school kid. So it's very 21 Jump Street, I think, in that regards. And so, like I said, the first season was this. Anyway, keeping up to speed, because I should explain that first. But what I was saying about what I really like is the character dynamics between Chidori and Sosuke and Fumofu, because it wasn't just like her like hitting him with a fan all the time, and it wasn't just him being, oh, I'm the military guy, I'm gonna, I don't know, he does do that stuff, but I think they work it in a way that's like you just get to see the relationship develop, and it's a gag, but at the same time it's not just a gag, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's much more personable, I think.
Yes, and I would agree with that.
It really works. And what's best is, like I said, no mechs, but we do have a Lord and Savior, Bonta-kun. It's been like 2 weeks since I've seen it, but I'll randomly start thinking about Bonta-kun and like start laughing. Because I don't know if we can like really spoil what Bonta-kun really is. What do you think?
I don't think it's that big a deal.
All right, we can go. So Bonta-kun is basically a mascot for an amusement park, and he shows up, a little bit in the first Full Metal Panic of like stuffed animals and whatnot. And basically for reasons I don't really remember why, Sosuke, the super military guy, decks out this mascot costume as like the super cute mascot costume that just says Fumofu, which is the name of the show, and he basically just jacks it up as like some mech, and sometimes he fights with it on, and it's just so funny. It's one of the things you probably have to see to really appreciate how funny it is. It was so funny seeing this like Mickey Mouse, Pikachu-esque character like do like military raids,
kicking butt.
and I love that one scene when it's him and he's fighting the police officer lady, and like I laugh, like I had to look it up twice, but she's just like, "Well, you're gonna die here, Bonta-kun." It's so funny. So your opinions on the Bonta-kun?
Oh, I thought it was great, and like I believe it comes a little bit more in this. Does it come a little bit more in the second raid when he like tries to sell all of the ones that he made?
No, that's like, from.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was great. Where he like made a bunch of suits to try and sell to like all these governments, and like nobody bought them, and he was like really surprised that nobody would.
Yeah,
I thought it was hilarious.
First, you don't know what it is, though. He's like, "Oh man, I made this technology, but no one wants it." And yeah, it's really funny. Like the one part, like I guess the very end is when they're doing like some raid over some like mafia people, and I don't even know who the other, like it's him and a bunch of other Bonta-kuns. I'm assuming they're a bunch of like this mob he was working with, and it's funny showing them do like military raids, like they throw like a smoke grenade in a room and take like some machine gun and start shooting it, and they
dressed up as Bonta-kun.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Fumofu, honestly. Other than the fact that
it's definitely the funniest out of all of them.
It is. It's hilarious. It's generally hilarious. Probably gonna be in my top. If I ever make a list of like favorite anime, like comedy anime, it's probably gonna be up there for me for sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that is why we talked about how much better it is. Kyoto Animation doing it, this animation wise, but just story wise, like everything's better. And I think the reason why is this, like when someone asks me like, Evan, why do you love anime? I'm going to use this as like an example to be like, yeah, so there's this show that's like the first season's a very like military like esque, somewhat serious show, and the second season has a guy in a stuffed animal costume doing covert operations.
Yeah, they're like polar opposites.
What?
And so they're like polar opposites.
Yeah, and it still kind of works, And now you never see stuff like that in like live action stuff. That'd be like, I would love to happen, but I mean like a comedy, like say in the Game of Thrones universe, never gonna happen. But that'd be awesome, So anything else you want to say about Fumofu before we move on to the second raid?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Yeah, like I said, very hard to talk about a comedy series in my opinion because it's funny. You should watch it. So then we get to the second raid, which is Fumofu. You don't have to watch the original Full Metal Panic.
Yeah,
it's very standalone. Second raid is not that case at all. You really have to understand the first season of everything. Are you still there? My thing got, yeah. Anyway, sorry. My screen went black, so I'll make sure you're still there. Anyway, what really surprised me about the second raid is how, like, much darker it is than the other two seasons. Even the first Gonzo one. Definitely. Like, the first Gonzo one had action, but it was very, like, PG-13 action. There's, like, a scene in the second raid when someone, like, gets their throat slit, and it's probably one of the most graphic things I've seen in an anime. You know, outside of what, like, you know, Berserk or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And, like, they use, like, in Fomofu, they would curse, but they would, like, you know, bleep the curses out, you know, as like a joke. Like, they say that they don't say the F word a lot, but they definitely say it, you know. I was like, oh my gosh. And anything about, like, the darkness, about how, like, it matured that you want to talk about?
No, I think I definitely think it did.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes, well, definitely.
Another thing that I really enjoyed about it is, like, the character interactions. Like, I probably pick second raid as my favorite out of the three, to be honest, just because they take the shticks and that's still there from the other two, but they actually kind of, like, develop them. Like, there's this great scene when, like, Sosuke tries to get a haircut because he's trying to live a normal life and he can't because he's, like, super military, and it leads to, like, a very touching scene with Chidori, which I was like, that's actually, like, really sweet. And how they develop these characters, but take characters who in the last season was a comedy anime and was just a comedy anime, where they take the same characters and put them through, like, these dark situations that even me, I was like, man, guys, like, that really sucks for you guys.
Yeah.
So anything you want to say about that?
I really like second raid a lot. Yeah, I think I would agree that it's probably the best out of all of them.
Yeah, I definitely like agree with you there. Like, it's what I really appreciate about it, that there's no like villain of the week. You know, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, the villains are cartoony, but, like, in the fun, in, like, the good way. You know, like the good way to be cartoony, like the Matrix or something like that. You know, like, you have those two Chinese twins who are like the Yuri sisters, because that's apparently is a trope in anime to have twin sisters who are into each other, whatever. That's weird. And you have the doctor guy, like, I don't know, that crazy guy who I didn't really like that much, but, you know, he wasn't in the show that much to, like, bog down. I like the villain from the fourth Full Metal Panic, who was kind of like, I don't like this guy, but anyway, it's very like, I think the villains are very good. The plot line is very, like, it's not villain of the week, right? Like the other ones were. It's very much, this is a plot line, it all builds up to, like, one thing. And then what I really thought it was good is, like, you know, if we're talking about the action and directing, Kyoto Animation isn't known for, like, the action scenes, but the action scenes in second raid is so cool and so fluid, you know, and it's so much better.
They're definitely better than the Gonzo ones.
Definitely better than Gonzo. And, you know, Tessa's best girl, and that's all I gotta say about that.
No, I would agree with that.
Oh, actually,
I think I told you that was the ship.
I think what I really liked about Tess is, like, I guess, the submarine captain, which, you know, basically Sosuke's leader is, but she's only a 17-year-old girl. And, like, in the first series, the Gonzo one, you kind of like, why is this girl a captain? You know, like, who would put her in charge of this group? But, like, in the second raid, she's like a badass, you know?
Yeah, she steps it up.
Yeah, she steps it up. This one of her, like, you know, like, the person underneath her tries to give her crap, and she's like, well, you can leave. You know, and, like, she gives a speech, and he's like, you know what, I'm sorry. So, Full Metal Panic, I'm excited for season 4 to come out sometime.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's Studio Zebic, which I think is how you pronounce it. They did a little show. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually don't know much about Studio Zebic. I don't think I've ever heard of them.
They did Keijo. Everything Keijo.
Oh, okay. I have watched Keijo.
I'm a big Keijo fan. So I'm like, all right. Like, I didn't even see, like, I was looking at the, like, previous stuff on Wikipedia, and I just saw Keijo, and I stopped. I don't even know what else they made. I'm like, you made Keijo. That's good up for me. Keijo is awesome.
So maybe we're looking at, like, another season of Full Metal Panic like Famofu. Maybe it'll be more slice of life comedy oriented.
I don't think so, just because they showed, like, when they announced it, they showed the picture of the main mech, right? And that was, like, this,
Okay.
season 4, whatever they're calling it, with the main mech. And, like, if they were doing, like, Fumofo, they would show, like, Bondrakin, right? Which is,
Right.
like,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
but who knows? We'll see. They said it's supposed to be in fall. We haven't heard anything yet, so I doubt it. But anyway. So, anything else you want to talk about Full Metal Panic as a franchise in general before we move on?
No, I'm just excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's great to be fans like you just watched it like a week ago, because like the 4th season came out like in 2001. And so the people, you and I, who I just watched it, were like, oh yeah, we're not waiting forever for season 4.
Yeah.
So, transitioning to the next show, like I said, we're skipping Air because, they didn't have it streaming. The next show is the show that I've seen, like, I saw it like a year ago, and I probably should have brushed up on it a little, but I really didn't. But we're talking about My Girl Haruhi, the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And this is your first time watching it, so tell me what you think. What's your initial, since it's fresh in your mind, what's your thoughts about Haruhi?
I really enjoyed it. The only thing that got me was the ending. I didn't like it that much. But overall, I really enjoyed the show, and I love Haruhi. I love her so much.
Haruhi, a lot of people don't like Haruhi, and like.
Well, she is really mean.
Yeah, she's mean, but she only gets like unbearable in like one episode, I think. And Keon, like in that episode, Keon, the main character, kind of like tells her off.
Tones her down. Yeah.
So like he tells her off, and so you're like, oh, okay, like I think it's like it's forgiven. So Haruhi, which is a show I don't even know, like it's like 10 years old, so I guess like, but what I want, like we can spoil it, and also because it's like not that big of a deal. So I think Haruhi honestly is not in my favorites list. I don't know if you call it like in my list of what the greatest anime is, right? But if someone was like, what is the #1 mandatory anime? Like any anime fan needs to watch it. I'm like, you need to watch the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I think because it's just so iconic, and it has a great way of being like a parody of slice of life, but at the same time being like the definitive example of like slice of life anime. I don't know how it does it. Kyoto Animation is awesome. It's a weird show about a guy named Keon, and he's kind of a sarcastic asshole, but I love him for that. And he ends up meeting a girl who's Haruhi Suzumiya. It turns out she's God. And he goes to high school with her. And then she wants to like start a club with aliens, time travelers, and espers. And then Keon ends up meeting 3 other people in the group, which are an alien, a time traveler, and an esper. And they go on wacky adventures, but Haruhi can't know the truth, that she's God and that these people have superpowers, or she's gonna basically alter reality, and we don't want that because Haruhi's crazy.
Right. Yeah, fact.
But we watched it both chronologically, which the original broadcast is actually done out of chronological order. They did that so that the first light novel is basically the first 6 episodes, chronologically speaking. But since, that's not enough to make an anime season, they took the first light novel and they sprinkled those episodes around the other 2, like the second 2 light novels, I believe, which are pretty much just like them like hanging out. And season 1 and 2 get blended together because, season 2 actually takes place during season 1, which is super confusing.
Right.
But anyway, you have like all these scenes of like, oh, they're gonna go make a movie, or they're gonna go play baseball, or do a video game, sprouting with things like, well, the world's ending because Haruhi got upset one time and stuff like that. And it's a very weird show, very fantastical, but also like just amazing, like all around.
Yeah,
so,
I really enjoyed it.
What do you think about the cast, like overall? What do you think about Keon?
He's definitely funny, and like I feel like he's not like a typical protagonist in the show, like in shows in anime in general. He's not really like the lackluster, like everybody kind of likes him. He's not stupid in any way like a normal like a normal protagonist would be. So I feel like he's like a pretty good character for the show.
And you have the other three members, because you got Haruhi is awesome, Kion. You got the other three, which is like, I'm probably gonna forget the name, is Nagato,
Yep.
which is the alien.
Yep.
And she's like, you watch the dub for that one too?
I watched the dub for that one as well.
Yeah, I love how the voice actress has like the deadpan, like, like responses for everything.
She's probably my favorite one out of all of them.
Yeah, like she's definitely like she's really funny. Like it's funny because she shouldn't be a funny character because all she does is like she's just like this kind of like the straight man, but like the ultra straight man. Like some of her reactions. Yep. Like this is one part when they talk about, I forgot what it was exactly, but they're talking about like someone shoots like a laser out of their eye, and they're like,
yep, while they're filming the movie.
Like Kion's like, man, like they shot with a laser, and she's like, it's not a laser, it's like what Nanako said. I don't know what Nanako said. I can't remember.
Yeah, she drops the knowledge on him. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like her delivery, because he keeps on calling it a laser. She goes, it's not a laser. And she's saying this like weird, big scientific explanation. He's like, okay, like be simple, Nagato. Nagato's awesome. Then you got time traveling girl, who's like super moe and cute, and you really feel bad for her because Haruhi like makes her like dress up in these like awful outfits.
Yep. Asahina.
Was really Asahina, and what's really funny is that like Kion always kind of wants to like pretend like he's super offended that she would do this, like Haruhi would do this to her, but at the same time he's always like, man, I can't wait to see what costume she's wearing today. And then you have the other dude,
Esper.
Yeah,
Koizumi.
Yeah, Koizumi, who's like the super like I said, passive aggressive, just like he's kind of a douche, but he's like one of those guys like he's douchey, but he's like one of those like nice douches, but he's a douche. Yeah.
Yeah. I did not like him that much.
Yeah, I like him. I like his dynamic with the other characters. And so what I think was great about the plot structure of watching it chronologically is the very first episode of Haruhi, you don't know any of, well, it's been a while, but for what I know, you don't know any of like the time travelers, espers and aliens. You don't know that Haruhi's a god. It's just this weird slice of life show, right? And I think it's not until episode 2 or 3 when someone's like, "Oh yeah, Haruhi's god," and like, wait, what? Like, are you being serious? Are you joking? And he's like, no, she's legitimately god, and like, I don't believe you. And then you introduce, the time travelers, the aliens, the espers, and the next episodes is basically to prove that they are aliens, they are time travelers, they are espers, and it kind of like it's great. Shows you start from this ordinary world, right, which everything's very slice of life, very like quote unquote realistic, into this crazy, this supernatural story. I thought how it eases you into it while watching it chronologically is very, very well done.
Yes, I would agree. I couldn't imagine watching it out of order in broadcast order.
I mean, one of these days I might go ahead and rewatch it in broadcast order.
Yeah, it might be nice to get both sides.
But let's see what we're gonna talk about. Also like same thing. Like there's like some action, not a lot of action scenes. Like there's like 1 or 2, I believe, in the whole entire series. But they kick ass. Like they really kick ass. So I just want to give that a quick shout out. The humor's great. Like the overall humor. What did you think about that?
Oh, I thought it was hilarious. The way Haruhi acts is just humor in and of itself, and so anytime she's talking, I'm laughing.
She's such a fun character. Like I'm like, man, I wish I could be in the SOS brigade. It sounds like hell, but it sounds like a fun hell.
It'd be a fun hell. Yeah, it'd be a fun hell.
It'd be fun hell. Like Haruhi is like ultimate, just like think of Tom as like Himedine. I don't know, not Sundane, but she's like a princess, Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah, we gotta talk about one thing before we move on. The thing that made Haruhi iconic, which is the ending theme and the Hi Yuki dance. Because if you talk about Haruhi, you gotta mention the dance. And what do you think about the dance?
I loved it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But you gotta talk about it. Very catchy. The only few EDs I actually watch. I don't watch EDs that much, but every single time that they do that dance, I'm watching it because it's super fun. And that also what kind of like made Kyoto Animation. Like Kyoto Animation does that like all the time now because that dance is so popular. And I think that dance is probably. Yeah, go ahead.
You can see how popular it is by playing Overwatch, and so Mai in the Overwatch, her dance that she got in this past event for it is the dance from Haruhi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's super awesome. So I think the reason why I mentioned that is that dance is so iconic, and probably a big reason why Haruhi became so popular is because of that song and dance number. And yeah, it's not a lot to talk about, but it's definitely like worth mentioning. And my phone just went blank. And so one thing I want to talk about is we transitioned from season 1 to season 2. Like I said, season 2 is weird in the sense of like it happens instead of happening after like other shows, it happens during. So it's all instead of like one happens the other. Like the season 2 episodes happen like between season 1 episodes, and it's super weird. And that's that's weird about watching it chronologically is you get to see there's a 3-year difference between the times they came out, and you get to see like the change in animation. So did that bother you? Like seeing one episode that was very much so like still beautiful, but not as high res as the other ones?
I did not notice too much because I was watching on Funimation, and my quality was pretty bad because that was the only way I could get it to load. So I really did not notice a difference. But so I didn't notice it, so I can't really speak to the difference in animation.
Okay. So, yeah, that was weird, but it's great to see the improvement of Kyoto Anime. I think I read somewhere someone said that, like, they made season 2 look more like Kanon, which we'll get to next episode, which I love Kanon, preview. So, anyway, now we got to talk about your favorite thing about Yumiya, and that is the Endless 8. Now, you didn't know about the Endless 8 at all. Like,
I did not know.
At all, which is rare. It was just funny because, like, you sent me, like, I messaged you about the order to watch Haruhi, and I messaged you this graphic someone made, and the very end is, like, we got on the Endless 8, but I cropped it out because I didn't want you to read it, because I wanted you to, like, experience it by yourself. So Endless 8, simply put, is one episode 8 times.
But with very minute difference.
Yeah, very minute. So it's not the exact same episode. It's like the camera angles are different. The clothes they wear is different. Some of the dialogue changes. So it's not the exact same thing, but like 95%, 98% probably is the exact same thing. I only watched the first, second, and last episodes just because I didn't want to watch the whole entire thing. But you watched the whole thing. So how was the Endless 8?
I don't understand why you would ever do something like that.
I love it. I love it so much because it's like Kyoto Animation is being like the biggest trolls right now.
Yeah, like you literally spent budget on the exact same episode 8 times.
You know what
8 times.
The best part about that is like put that in people's shoes who like they first watched the show in 2006. I don't know how many. I think it's like 15 episodes, maybe 14 of season 1. And like you love this show, and you wait 3 years, and they're like, "Oh, we got another like 14 or 15." Like, okay, and 8 of those are the exact same episode.
Yeah, I could not imagine watching that as it was coming out. To watch the same episode 8 weeks in a row, that would suck.
I mean, I have heard rumors about why they did that. I heard like it's weird because you've seen all of Endless 8, but you haven't seen Disappearance. I only saw 3 of Endless 8, and I have seen Disappearance. We'll talk about that a little later. But what makes like Endless 8, like I've heard rumors, is that the reason why they did it is one, that they were gonna make the Disappearance a part of the show, but then they were like, oh well, this makes more sense as a movie. So to fill time, they did the Endless 8. And people who like defend the Endless 8 is like, I mean, it's kind of a spoiler or whatever. Pretty much people who defend the Endless Eight is like where you really put yourself in the shoes of one of the characters, which pays off in the Disappearance movie. And I'm like, we didn't need 8 episodes.
Yeah. There's no way to justify 8 episodes.
But it's great in the fact of like Kyoto Animation is trolling the fans, and it's like I respect a good troll, and that has to be like the big troll in anime history.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely probably the biggest in anime history. That's for sure.
It's so great. So, anything else you want to talk about the Endless Eight before we move on?
No, I'd rather put that out of my mind.
Yeah, one thing we talked about is you already kind of mentioned is like the ending of Haruhi while watching it. Like the reason why they did it out of order, the 4th season, is so you can get the big emotional payoff at the end of it, other than like after episode 6, and then all the other episodes are like side episodes. And so the ending of Haruhi is in chronological order, is very much so like lackluster. It's an episode when Kanon kind of goes off and like tries to like buy a heater or return a heater, and nothing really happens other than that, and it kind of sucks. So what'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the show. I didn't enjoy the ending.
Yeah, for sure. And like you told me earlier that you didn't watch The Disappearance, which is fine. But I do think that watching Disappearance after is kind of makes it a better ending. But at the same time, leading to Disappearance, Disappearance still ends with like unresolved plot points, which is really frustrating because besides like, the disappearances of Nagata Yuki-chan, which is like kind of like an alternate
spin-off.
Yeah. You don't see any more Haruhi. You never had any, and we're probably not going to get any because it's been like 8 years.
Right.
So, but Disappearance in itself, I know you didn't watch it, but I watched it recently because Funimation released it. And it is, if you ever get a chance to watch it, I definitely recommend watching it eventually because it is incredible film.
I'm definitely going to get a chance to at some point.
What's great about the film is like the same thing we were talking about earlier, is that it's not as extreme as like the transition from like Fumofu to the second raid. But Haruhi very much so had drama in it, but it very much so is a comedy show. But Disappearance is very, very like, gonna get a pun here, very melancholy. So you get that? It's very sad. Like something happened to Kanon, and he has no idea what's going on, and he's so helpless in the film. And it feels like there's no hope at all. And seeing the movie kind of play out as a drama and seeing these characters play off as a drama, it's really fantastic. And so definitely, like I said, it's definitely a better ending that we got from the last episode of season 2 or season 1, whatever it was. But at the same time, there is like one thing at the end that's like, oh, well, this is going to happen, but it never happens. So, yeah, anything else you want to talk about Haruhi in general before we move on to that show?
No, I think we've covered it.
Yeah, fantastic show. I think everyone needs to watch it. So that show is the second one, which I have the shortest notes about. The second key animated show after Arrow that Kanon did, or that Kyoto Animation did, called Kanon. And Kanon is like basically what I call BC, before Clannad. So what's your opinion? What's your opinion on like Kanon?
I think out of all 3 shows, it was probably the one I enjoyed the most.
Really? Well, why so?
Well, I mean, so it's weird for me because I'm one of those people that like really sad anime. Like I like sad shows, and so it's more sad than all of the other than the other 2. And so I personally enjoyed it more than the other 2.
See, I have a problem with sad anime, not the idea of having an anime that's sad. And like I feel we might get a fight in this, but one anime that I did not enjoy that much is Your Lie in April, because I felt that it's a sad anime, but I feel that the only point of that anime was to make me sad, right? And like And it's just like, and in my opinion, it just becomes kind of like pornography at that point, Like, it's just there to do, like, this one, like, thing.
One thing, right?
Nothing really else.
Right, yeah.
But Kanon... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't get that. I don't get that feeling personally, and that's why I really enjoy them, I guess.
Well, see,
actually...
Go ahead, sorry.
I actually really don't know why I enjoy sad shows, but I just do.
I mean, I think that when it's done correctly, which from my experience, most of the time it's not, but I think when it's done correctly, Kanon is touching, and that is what I think about Kanon. Because Kanon is very sad, and it has... I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I think it has the most problems out of any of these 3 shows, but I think, like, the actual, like, emotional... it actually makes me feel sad, but in a way that I don't feel like I'm being manipulated. It feels very natural, very real. That a lot of shows seem very, like, very fake, even though I know it's all fake. But it's how you feel, not how you portray. One thing I want to talk about is, like, man, I very rarely, like, watch an OP every time, but I had to watch the OP for Kanon, like, every episode, because it's just very somber, sad song that really sets the mood. You have all 5 of the girls, and like I was saying, I forgot to say again, Kanon's about this guy who, I forgot his name. I'm just going to call him Sosuke because it's the same voice actor. This guy comes in, he lives with his cousin and his aunt to this town that he used to visit when he was a kid, and he ends up meeting a whole bunch of girls, and sad stuff happens. Anything you want to add to that synopsis?
No, that is exactly what happens.
And it's based off, like I said, based off a visual novel by Key. And I think that's the biggest problem for me, narratively, is that I haven't played the original visual novel. But from what I understand, there's 5 heroines, and you at the beginning of the game, you pick one, and throughout the game, you just follow that person's story. And the other girls, I think they might be in it, but they're not the focus. Like, this one girl is the focus. And so in order to play it, like, to get all the stories, you have to play it 5 times. So you got to see end credits 5 times before you get the, like, every different route.
Full game.
With this anime, you have to, like, they try to cram all 5 stories in basically the same playthrough, the same watch, right? They don't reset the universe every time. And I think that part kind of made some of the sadness kind of diminish for me. It's a law of diminishing returns. Like, the very first chick, when the sad thing happens, I'm like, this is heartbreaking and beautiful and sad, but I love it. And also kind of like happy in a way, bittersweet. And I was like, this is really sad. And then the second story arc happens, which I still enjoyed. But the problem with that one is that what's really weird is after a story arc happens, after the sad thing happens with one girl, he starts the next one, and for most of the time until the very end, he doesn't even, like, really acknowledge, the past woman that he had.
You're right.
Yeah, and so it's very awkward starting, the second arc, when I won't spoil it, something really tragically happened to the first girl. And he starts the second arc, and he's like, oh, man, that was a crazy story. Let me move over to this part. I'm like, all right.
Right. And that must be because of how the game is designed versus how you have to show the anime.
For sure.
And it's like, it didn't translate well.
Yeah, and that was like, it kind of makes the character seem like a jerk, Like, he's this girl who, like, essentially, not all of them, but some of them he does kind of fall in love with. And then something bad happens to them, and they're, like, out of the story, and he's like, oh, on to the next chick. And it happens, like, several times. I was like, this guy kind of seems like an ass,
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, it all takes place in winter, so it doesn't really, like, show you, like, a lot of time has passed by. It does feel like, immediately after.
Right. It can't be more than, like, 3 months.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, man, like, this is really weird. And also, like I was saying, throughout I feel like the most, well, not true. The very first one, like, just forget, like, the last score, because the last score was very tragic, But, and, like, I really enjoyed that one. But, like, the first one was, like, very sad. The second one was sad, but not as. And the third one was, like, okay, like, I don't really feel anything at all. And the fourth one is, like, the fourth and fifth one are kind of, like, together, mixing together. But I'm like, but that kind of makes it so that the focus is on both of them, and it doesn't really work well. Which I know is kind of hypocritical because I'm saying it's good having a focused individual, but either way, I guess they're kind of screwed of how they adapt it. The only way I guess I would have been happy is if they did, he pursues one girl and that's it, and then after that, it's kind of like a soft reset. It kind of starts the story over again. But I know they're not going to do that.
Kind of like Higurashi, the way Higurashi does it.
I have no idea what that means, but I'm gonna take your word on it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, just good. So, yeah, and there's also my other problem, and I really feel like I'm down in the show really much that I should be, because at the end of the day, I really, really enjoyed this show, and I'm really happy I watched it. But I do feel like another big issue is there's this big plot hole, and I don't want to get too specific, but it's one of the girls he encounters could solve all his problems, and he knows it, or the audience knows it. For some reason, he doesn't even consider it.
Right.
And I'm this person over here kind of owes you, and this is me trying to speak without spoiling anything. This person over here would probably help you out, but you refuse to even acknowledge it. I'm why? So. Yeah, that's all I
yeah, that's fair. I actually didn't think about what you're talking about, but yeah, you're completely right.
That was a big problem with me. But anyway, anything you want to add to Kanon?
My best girl, definitely.
She's
I just like her the most. She's the silent type, which I enjoy, and the foodie, she eats a lot, I like her a lot. And then, so the show starts with when he goes to school, he meets Nayuki's two friends, and one of them is Jun, the boy. I hated him to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
But he got so much better towards the end of the show.
I mean, there's a
scene. I'm glad.
Yeah, he was kind of like the fuck boy. He's like...
Yep.
I mean, he's I'm not going to lie. I've been him several times when I'm just obsessed with the girl who obviously doesn't like me back, and I keep on trying, even though I should just give it up way longer, or way before. And it is kind of sad, but I do like the scene that he has with the main character in a cafe. That scene was pretty baller. Yes. And
I really liked him after the halfway point, after the halfway point of the show, he got a lot better.
Yeah, he is kind of annoying. I totally forgot about him, to be honest.
Yeah. No.
I really like the humor, and I forgot to mention this, but it is really genuinely a funny show. And that's what I think is what makes strategy so much more important, is you have to make your audience feel for these characters. You have to show them, the laughter before you can show them the tears. This kind of thing.
Right.
And that when it's just sadness all the time, you kind of become numb to it. That's another reason that I think develops as makes the audience does feel sad about these characters, because you see how funny it is, and then tragedy strikes, you're oh man, that really sucks. And also liked about how all 5 of the girls are all so different from one another, and they all have their little quirks. I forgot their names because I'm terrible with names, but the cousin, I love how her bit about how she can never wake up in the morning, and she actually has 100 alarm clocks and she still doesn't wake up.
Yep.
and then there's my best girl, which first I was I really like Makoto because she's a tsundere, and I got get my tsundere. But then I was nah, Ayu.
I really did like Ayu.
Ayu is so great.
Yeah, and she had the best bit out of everybody with that "ooh-goo" that she said all the time. Oh my gosh, every time I laughed when she said that.
I think the dynamic between her and the main character is probably the best too, because he plays the guy who honestly, if I ever get a girlfriend, I would wish to be like him, to be very much making fun of her all the time. I would never do that, but I would want to do that, and I love I love to see him just like make fun of her this whole entire time, and just her like reaction to him. And like this one part, they go to the hospital, and he's like, "Oh, what does he say?" He goes, "You know what the doctors say? Like an ugu a day.
An ugu a day keeps the doctor away." Yep.
Like no one says that. And I do think that, like, while I had problems with, like, some of the, like, basically the second and third story arcs, I do think how it does kind of wrap it all together at the end is probably the best they could have done it, you know? At that
Right.
way. It's very emotional, sad, and it's very sad, but it isn't, like, just, like, I'm gonna crush you, and you're never gonna be able to get back up. Like,
it could be much worse.
Yeah, the ultimate ending, like, theme of it is, like, even though sad things happen, to keep on going and keep on, like, you know, like, get up again after you get knocked down, which is a message that I'm always going to appreciate.
I agree.
And for that, anything you want to add?
Nope, I think we covered them.
All right, so that is the end of episode 1. Next time, whenever we post again, the show should be Lucky Star, which I'm super interested to see your opinion on that one, because it's an interesting show. Then we're going to have Clannad and Clannad After Story. So let's see if that fixes the problems I had with Kanon. And the third one is probably my favorite Kyoto Animation so far, Kanon. Out of all 3 of the shows, like any of those 3 you're super excited about checking out?
I've been wanting to watch Clannad for a really long time. Like I said, I'm into those sad shows, so that's the one I'm most excited for.
All right. And anything else you want to add, Chad?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, so where can people find you?
I'm on Facebook. That's pretty much it. That's all I do, really. So,
and I am.
I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't really do much in the form of like Twitch or anything crazy like that. So, if you want to follow me, if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook.
And I am on Twitter at the Jester Prince. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I really enjoyed it, Chad.
All right, thank you.
All right, and I'll see you guys later.